The state of New York is looking into a new coronavirus outbreak in Westchester County, which is just north of where we're sitting right here in New York City. The cluster of cases apparently tied to a high school student who attended a drive-in graduation ceremony after a visit to Florida. Since the event on June 20th, that individual and 4 others in attendance at that graduation have all tested positive for COVID. Joining us right now is New York Congresswoman Elise Stefanik. Congresswoman, good morning.
Good morning, Steve.
Well, that's unfortunate. You went down to Florida, came back. Next thing you know, he's actually at the event, and it sounds like that's where he started to have the symptoms.
Well, what I think is the height of hypocrisy is the fact that Governor Cuomo is demanding an investigation into this individual. High school graduation is an important milestone, and the reason why it's hypocritical is the governor refuses to be held accountable for the thousands and thousands of seniors who lost their lives because of the failed and fatal nursing home policies. So yes, of course, we need to trace individuals that attended that high school graduation ceremony, but it really is hypocritical that the governor is pointing fingers at this high school student.
That's right. And now here in New York and New Jersey and Connecticut, if you come into the state from one of the states that's having a spike right now, you've got to self-quarantine for 2 weeks. And that now apparently is the mandate for those 3 states. But Congresswoman, you were talking about what Governor Cuomo is taking a lot of heat for here in New York and regarding the nursing homes. And that is for a period of time, after somebody was dismissed from or released from a hospital with COVID, then they were released back and they could go back to their nursing home, which exposed potentially all the vulnerable people we're supposed to be taking care of.
Yes, it was a fatal policy, and most importantly, it did not follow federal guidance from CMS. Federal guidance from CMS was very clear that a nursing home should only accept a positive COVID patient if they were able to isolate them and if they had adequate PPE and testing. New York State has not been transparent, and family members of seniors who lost their lives have not gotten answers, but most importantly, were not even made aware when there was positive COVID cases in these senior living facilities. There is bipartisan outcry for answers and transparency, both at the state and federal level. Last week, the New York State Assembly and New York State Senate started having hearings on this. And of course, at the federal level, I, as well as many of my colleagues, have called for an independent investigation from the feds into New York State's failed policy. We also need to see that at the state level, but I believe what's most important is that it has to be independent and it cannot be conducted just by one of Governor Cuomo's top political allies, which would be the Attorney General of New York.
Sure. He has been asked about it a lot. I have heard him on his daily newscasts news capsules, essentially, where he's given updates on the coronavirus, where he has blamed the federal government. We were just following the federal government guidelines. But let's back up just a moment ago to when you were talking about the Attorney General of New York. You do not trust the Attorney General of New York to fairly look into the governor?
Well, again, I think it's important for both the federal government and New York State. But what I want to focus on is an independent investigation. So either the Department of Justice or Health and Human Services. It needs to truly be independent and not political. And what I think is interesting, Steve, is you started off the question talking about who he has blamed. He's not just blamed the federal government. He's blamed journalists. He's blamed the New York Post. He's blamed healthcare workers. He's blamed the seniors. He's blamed President Trump. He's blamed Republicans in Congress. So this is about him pointing fingers. These families deserve accountability. They deserve transparency. They deserve answers. And most importantly, we need to make sure as policymakers that this never happens in New York State or anywhere again.
Indeed, because, Congresswoman, we all know people who have died in New York nursing homes.
We do, and I've spoken with constituents. These conversations are absolutely heartbreaking, who have lost one or both senior parents.
It's terrible. All right. Congresswoman, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thanks, Steve.
By the way, we did reach out to Governor Cuomo for a statement. They have not yet responded. We'll keep you posted.